More and more signs are pointing to the Chicago Bulls staying put at number 12 in the NBA draft, but is this the best use of assets for the Chicago Bulls? We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, Ayo Dosunmu hypes Matas Buzelis as he comes away from the team's informal LA workouts as the star. We're going to talk about all that, plus dive into the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And so the Casey Johnson on this episode on Friday on CHSN talked about the Bulls and said, I have not heard much talk about trading up or down, so I think they'll be taking the 12th selection. Now, as we've said with everything, Casey Johnson sometimes can be used as a mouthpiece for the Bulls, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I think that he's legitimately floated information that they want out there so that then it can kind of, dictates maybe some trade things. I think that the Bulls are still most likely to stay at number 12. I want to be clear that I do agree with that. But who knows what's going to happen on draft night, right? All it takes is that for one player to fall unexpectedly on draft night that a team at 14 or 15 wants desperately to move up to get, then the Bulls may have to look and consider what they're going to do and how they value their board and if they can still get their guy later on in this draft. We talked about the fact that it really does seem like as of right now, Asa Newell may be separating himself as one of the Bulls' favorites in this draft. But then again, that could just be the Bulls pulling out fillers again and kind of throw people off the scent. So there's a lot of posturing right now. This is the last full week before the draft. We are 10 days away from the NBA draft. And over these next 10 days, you are going to get a lot of conflicting news and reports, not just about the Bulls, but about every team in the NBA, especially teams that have multiple first-round picks leading into this draft. That's the type of thing you're going to hear about. So don't be too shocked on that. But the Bulls staying at number 12, I want to be clear here. That's perfectly fine. I get that a lot of people look at it, well, we should move up, we should move down, we should get this guy, we should get that guy. At the end of the day, like, to me, the one thing that you have to guarantee is that you can get your guy if he's there on the board when you pick, right? And it's not like the Bulls have one of those picks where, like, they're picking in the top 5, but the guy that they honestly think is maybe the better option will clearly be there after number 8 or something like that. I think really when you get after number 8 or 9 in this draft, a lot of the players have very similar upsides. Some have higher floors and are more kind of safe picks in a way, but they all have very similar upsides at that point in time. And so if I'm the Bulls, I just stay there. Now, unless you're moving down only a couple of spots and you pick up an additional draft pick, something like that, if that happens, then okay, great, right? Like, all right, cool. If that's really what you want to do. For example, if the Spurs want to move up from number 14 to number 12, but you still feel you can get Asa Newell there below that, do that. But I think that the risk involved in it, you may want to stay at just number 12. Well, I understand them staying at number 12 and just taking their guy and dealing with it. Now, at that point, that doesn't mean that the Bulls can't trade back into the draft. It means that they can use future first. They can use their second-round pick. They can use a player. They can use something like that to try to get back into the first round of this draft if they decide to do so. And that's the place I think where you're really looking probably the most of the most movement for the Bulls is trying to get back into that. There's going to be a lot of movement around this draft. We've talked about it. You got teams like the OKC Thunder who have multiple picks. They may not have that many open roster spots. You got the Brooklyn Nets who got 4 picks in the first round. They may not have that open roster spot. So those are kind of the teams that I would target to try to get back into this draft. If I'm the Chicago Bulls, to try to, if I want an additional first or pick up somebody later in this draft, that's what I'm looking at. So we'll see what happens there. I think, the Bulls have still a lot of different ways and avenues that they can go. I know that the fans all want to see, sometimes as fans, we want to see movement because it means activity, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right move, right? Just because you're more active. We see it, for example, on the basketball court. A player can be engaged and be moving well defensively. It doesn't mean they're playing better defense. It does look better for sure, right? It looks better because, hey, they're fighting over that screen. Yeah, but they're bad. Like it can do that type of thing, right? So, you could see a team making moves, but if you don't draft the right player, all that movement doesn't mean anything. So I'm more focused on the Bulls getting the guy that's going to be right. I think they have to nail this draft. Like I said, it's really key, especially if you're not going to make a big swing for a star or anything like that, which is unlikely for the Bulls. It's really important you nail these upcoming drafts that you have in 2025, 2026. You have to nail those picks. And so that's what I'm more focused on. Do you get the right guy? Regardless of where you draft him at, regardless of what other movement happens or whatever else, do you get the right guy? And that's really what I'm looking at here for the Bulls. Get the right guy. And of course, we won't fully know until down the road, right? There are players that have really good, solid rookie years that never evolve after that. So you won't know 100% right away. And I know there are going to be people who are trying to write the story on, oh my God, the Bulls clearly got this or that after 3 months into the season, but it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time, and we'll see what the Bulls do in this draft. I've said it right on here, Locked On. I said it on NBA Central, Locked On NBA. Like I've said it almost everywhere that I've been. The Bulls have a really, really good chance to walk away at number 12 with a really good player, right? You got a mixture of, when you really look at it, it's talking about positionless. If we're talking about just centers, they have a really good chance of like Derek Queen, Asa Newell, Thomas Sorber being guys that are there at number 12, right? I know people like to bring up Danny Wolf, but I don't think he's going to go high enough to get number 12, but I even like Danny Wolf too. I think you have that. But then you also have guys like a Cedric Howard, like a Drake Powell. You still have guys with that tremendous upside as well, Carter Bryant, right, who are possibilities for this team. Rasheer Fleming is another one that I really like. I think he's going to go much lower, though. But those are guys that I like. So, let's hope that the Bulls just get this pick right. Let's hope that they come in with a game plan for these young players as well. Don't just hope something's going to stick to the wall, and I think the Bulls would be pretty much okay. But let me know what you guys think on that, on Casey Johnson mentioning that the Bulls are probably unlikely to trade up or down in this draft. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Now, Ayo Dosunmu has been doing a lot of YouTubing, and, I'm sure because between him not being able to do full workouts as he's still recovering from that shoulder injury, but also just wanting to have an outlet, which I'm perfectly fine with. But in Ayo Dosunmu's vlog, in him talking about, the workouts that happened in LA, we do know that the Bulls all got together. Coby White was there. Ayo Dosunmu was there. Matas Buzelis was there. Josh Giddey was there, right? That they got this together. Is that a couple of things stood out about Matas Buzelis. For one, the 20-year-old has absolutely put on some muscle. And you've seen that even if you watch Ayo Dosunmu's YouTube videos, you've been able to see that in just the 2 months since the season has ended, Matas Buzelis has put on some muscle. You can tell he has been in the gym working out, right? And that's a really good thing. I think he needs that physicality because Matas has the chance. He has not shown it yet. I want to be clear there. And like I said, I'm not somebody who I like to talk about players in the sense of who they could be. I like to talk about the reality of who they are now with the chances of they can develop in certain ways. One of the ways that Matas can definitely develop, he has the activity. He has the physical makeup to be a solid defender. He's going to have to put on some weight, but he's done that. It really does look like Matas has put on 5-8 pounds of muscle already, which is really good. And I think, when you have the offseason where you're able to just focus on that, that's really good. But then it seems like in those workouts, he really stood out, at least according to Ayo Dosunmu. Ayo saying this. He had a very good showing in LA. Matas is a hard worker, a tremendous worker. He loves the work. I have high praises for him, high expectations for him. I'm seeing him in person, him getting stronger. He's starting to realize how strong he is and how he's able to dominate. I know Giannis is a Hall of Famer, top 20, top 30 player all time, but Matas has a chance to really dominate the game like that because he's 6'10", 6'11", and he continues to get stronger, continues to get in the weight room. He's only going to get bigger, so I think he's going to continue to grow gradually like that in terms of him being able to finish, rebound, him being able to dominate the game. That's going to definitely show. He was the main guy I wanted the Bulls to draft last year. His body transforming is one of the things that's surprising me. Seeing him more powerful and he continues to get stronger as he continues to finish better at the rim, he's going to understand that there are limited people that are able to stop him. Once he gains the confidence, he can shoot, he can put it on the floor, it's going to be over. Now, we know that one thing Matas doesn't lack is confidence, right? And that's just a Chicago player. They don't lack confidence. But I think that the physicality part of it, and we saw a little bit of it towards the end of the season, where he was able to put the ball on the floor a little bit more. Billy Donovan kind of opened that up just in small doses for him. It wasn't a whole lot, but Matas does have a really good dribble. And I think that that combined with the length and the strength that he's putting on as well, with that length that he already had, that's going to be something that can really open the game up more for Matas. What's been one of my biggest criticisms of Matas Buzelis? Right now, everything for him is either at the rim or at the three-point line. He needs to gain some of that mid-range game, right? And I think that's going to help him with that a little bit more, as far as that size and just understanding how good his dribble is. Now, Billy's going to have to allow him to work on that end game, right? You can't, 80% of Matas Buzelis' shots were assisted. You need to allow him that opportunity to have a little bit more of that. Now, I'm not expecting him to go from 80% assisted shots, like maybe down to 40 or 45. I think if you can get that down around 65, 70 in year 2, to where he's creating for himself a little bit more, getting those opportunities, you can then see how he's growing as an isolation player, right? I think some of that's going to have to be important for Matas and what he can become at the next level. So really looking at that for Matas, I think that's going to be a key factor in this in the career for Matas Buzelis. But I think he's ready for it. I think he's going to be ready for it. I think he's going to be equipped for it. I think he has the skill set for it, and that's going to be really important to do and keep building up for Matas Buzelis. So good to see that he's really kind of showing out for his teammates and standing out for them. Matas is, and I know I said it and it ruffled some feathers, as I expected it to, when I said right now the Bulls don't have a player that you can say we can build a winning team around. We don't have that. We have players that we can build with. Coby you can build with. Giddey you can build with. These are players that you can build with for sure. But these aren't players that you look at and say, we can absolutely build one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference by building just around this player. And not to say that one of those guys can't turn into that, but we don't have that yet. Matas could be that guy. He just has a lot to work on in this game before he can get to that for sure. And let's hope that we see an evolution of Matas Buzelis and what he can be in year 2. And it's just steady progressing into that area. And, Matas has a good opportunity to do that. We just got to see if that's going to continue for Matas Buzelis. Let's see. I hope that it can. I think the world of the kid. Let's just get there. All right. With that said, let's stop the yapping. Let's get into the voicemails for today. This one's from Josh.
Hey, what up, Hayes? Chicago Bulls Central. This is Josh out in Arizona. My question for today is so with the OKC and the Pacers both being in the finals, depending on either team that wins, I don't think it matters what team wins. The league is definitely going to be heading in a new direction. I say like play style wise, being that it is like a copycat league. I see us heading more towards death filled teams, having, like 9 to 10 good guys, like skilled guys who can put the ball in the bucket. My question would be though, could the Bulls already be like on the cusp of being that? And that's kind of different for a change, being that when the league did shift more towards 3-point shooting, the Bulls never really caught on to that until like this 2024 season. So if we do move towards a more physical, depth-based league, could the Bulls already be on the cusp of that? We was already doing well with the 3-point shooting this year, but I feel like after the All-Star break, when we didn't have Zach LaVine no more, and the ball was spread out amongst the players, how we was playing was cold. It was cold. We still would probably have to flesh out the team more with a couple of moves. I like that Nickeil Alexander-Walker move. That would be great if we could get him for Zoe. But, I don't know. I feel like the East is open, and the way the Bulls were playing, if they could continue with that same energy and play style into next season, we might be dangerous. So, overall, just to summarize the question, could the Bulls be on the cusp of like being like frontiermen for this new play style that's going to be in the NBA? This the new modern NBA type shit. So just let me know what you think. You read.
The 9 to 10 guys argument, no, but all jokes aside, I think that building well-constructed teams is where the NBA is going, mainly because of the second tax apron. Like, you're not going to be able to have the amount of teams where you can just throw money at everything anymore. The second tax apron is so restrictive. Even teams that are willing to pay it for a little while, I think we're seeing so far that it's like, all right, yeah, we'll pay it for a year or two if we're contending. The moment we're not, we're going to try to get under that second tax apron because it is so punitive. And so that's the thing punitive. But that's the thing that you want to look at when you're the Bulls when it comes down to that. So I think you still need a star, and I think you need that. And yeah, you're gonna have your teams like if the Pacers win the title this year, they're that team that doesn't have like a superstar. But even though I think people need to put more respect on Tyrese Haliburton's name, but you still need a star to get it done. So yeah, you want to have the well-constructed, well-built teams. Whether you go out there and make smart trades to get them, whether you draft well, whatever it is, you need a well-constructed, deep team. I think that's really what we're seeing in the modern NBA and where it's going to, but you still definitely need that star. Now, the Bulls' play style, they definitely modernized their play style last year. You can't deny that. They modernized their play style. Got to give them heads up and a lot of credit for being able to do that, especially because at times they didn't necessarily have the roster that was best suited to that. So updating that play style, but they still are lacking some things in the half court, and they're going to have to fix that if they really want to be a team that's able to make some noise. And by make noise right now for them, in their level, that's have a chance to win a playoff series. So they got a lot that they need to get to that, but we're starting to see that progression. And let's see what they do to kind of solidify that this year. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from TJ.
Yo, what's up, Hayes? It's TJ from the low end. So I've been hearing a lot about Zoe. A whole bunch of different trade rumors and stuff. So say that the Bulls do trade Lonzo, right? Do you think that they should try and draft his replacement if they even need a replacement for real? Or do you think that they should, sign Trey Jones again? What's that his name? I don't remember his name. I ain't finna lie to you. I don't remember his name. But, little folk who was coming off the bench and then he became a starter, averaged like 18 points a game. Like, he was decent. I ain't pick out. I wouldn't mind them trading Joe just so then they can keep him. I wouldn't mind that at all, honestly. But yeah, I just wanted to hear your opinions on that.
Sign Lonzo Ball's replacement. I don't think you need to sign a replacement. Like, you just need to sign a solid player. Like, Lonzo isn't on the court long enough right now to where you need to focus on just a Lonzo replacement. Make no mistake, he's really good when he's on the court. But I think even a player that is good defensively, that's why I like the Nickeil Alexander-Walker thing. He's good defensively, he's a solid shooter, and he's on the court more. That right there is already a replacement more for Lonzo, and he can play, the 2 and 3. And so, you need that. So, as far as Trey Jones, which is his name, I don't know. Trey Jones is not because of, the Bulls aren't afraid to keep multiple guards on the roster. I don't think Lonzo's the reason why as far as just having another guard out there. I think it's down to the roster spots. And if we trade Zoe, we still aren't going to have the roster spot to keep Trey Jones. I think that's the part that plays into it. Now, if the Bulls make a trade where they send out more players than they get back, maybe you can keep that, but we haven't heard a lot of talk about it. I would love Trey Jones to stay. I think he fit in with the players. I think his role was really good for this team. He's a solid enough player, but I don't know if that's going to be the Bulls' focus in any Zoe move. But hey, we shall see what happens there. But I think more importantly, finding a Zoe replacement comes down to still getting a good wing defender that can still shoot the three a little bit, and that could be Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I'm not saying that that's the only thing we need to focus in on that, but it could very well be Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I mean, hell, Dalen Terry or Julian Phillips can step up into that role as well, potentially. If they take another step up, Julian going into year 3, Dalen going into year 4, and we'll see what happens. There's a year 4 or year 5 for Dalen. I think it's year 4 for Dalen. So, we'll see what happens there. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one is from Ed.
Yo, Hayes, what's good? This Ed again, man. I'm back talking about Asa Newell. Basically, I just feel like he that dude for real, I feel like he bring everything the Bulls need, and he could fit with Matas and Josh Giddey. I know he only shot 27 or 29% from 3, but I feel like it's going to come together once he in the league. And I also like that second jump he got, kind of like Zion. And he'd be a great rebounder for us for sure. He could switch on the guards. He could basically guard any position to me. But my question for you is, do you think he could play positions 3 through 5? So basically small forward, power forward, and center. Me personally, I think he can, but I wanted to know your thoughts on it.
Asa Newell playing 3 through 5, no. Now guarding 3 through 5, maybe, right? But I don't think Asa Newell, you don't want Asa Newell playing the 3. I don't think you want that. We don't even know if Asa Newell is going to be able to play the 5 long term yet in the NBA. That's one of the big questions around him, and that's why he's maybe falling in some draft situations. But I think even if Asa ends up being a 4, that's fine. You just need Matas to develop his game a little bit more to be that 3. And I think if you draft Asa Newell and he ends up being your long-term 4 with his ability to stretch the floor, we know what he shot in college. Reportedly in drills and things, he's doing that pretty well. His playmaking has stood out, especially in the workout with the Bulls. But he can guard multiple positions. Play 3 through 5, I doubt, but guard 3 through 5, maybe. Right? We got to see what the 5 is going to end up looking out for him with the shorter wingspan and the height combination there. There's a little bit of concern for the 5, the long-term 5 aspect of it, but we'll see what happens there. Asa Newell is a really good talent. He's a really good prospect in this draft. I'm not going to be mad if the Bulls draft him. Again, you just got to see how you're going to use him, how you're going to fit in with that, and we'll see what happens there. But Asa Newell is not a bad prospect to have at all in this draft, so we shall see. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Harry? This is Shay. Look, man, I'm gonna ask you multiple questions in one question. If the Chicago Bulls start out first half of the season, like they did last year, but only this time around All-Star break, they are like around the 5th, 6th, or hell, even 7th, maybe even 4th seed. Would you still consider trading away Coby White, even with your team winning at that rate? And do you see AK still trading away Coby White, even with us not being in the bottom half of the standings? If we're not in the bottom half of the standings, and this is proven the second half of last season is still having some effect on this upcoming season, but we're at a much better standing to the point where we're not even in the play-in. And do you think AK would trade Coby, and would you, if you were the GM, still trade Coby if your team was in that type of scenario? That's what I want to know. I might be explaining it wrong, but yeah, that's the answer I want to know. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
If the Bulls be the 4th or 5th seed, then hell no. I mean, I've said it before anyway. Like, I'm not looking to trade Coby anyway personally, but I think we have to keep in mind that the Bulls rumored openness to trade Coby, because again, it's not like they're that we even haven't heard that they're like actively shopping Coby. They may be listening to offers for Coby White. But if they do move him, I think it comes down to money and team building, right? The money aspect is self-explanatory. The investment that it's going to have to take to get Coby and Josh Giddey, you're looking at $65-70 million between the two of them getting money. And you're paying that for your backcourt. I think that maybe there's a question about that. Again, we'll see, right? But maybe there's a question about that. And then team building. If you have a backcourt of Coby and Josh Giddey, you are at a lack defensively, so you need at least one switchable big out there, and you need a solid on-ball defender. Now, if Matas turns into a really good on-ball defender, and you get whether somebody's the 3 or the 4 next to Matas to be a really good on-ball defender as well, and you get that two-way big, then maybe you're on your way there, right? But I think it's a question on how much do they want to invest in when they have to build the roster a specific way. Now, something that I have said, I think in the Discord and other places, that the type of players that you need if Coby and Giddey are your backcourt are players that you're going to need on a team either way. Switchable defenders that can shoot the 3 ball. You're going to need that regardless of what your team makeup is. Those players fit on any team. So I think there's that aspect of it too, that even if you do start investing in that being your backcourt and you eventually figure out, we may have to make a move here, you've invested at least in a more modern type roster regardless. So there's hope that a lot of that's going to carry over to whatever the next version of the roster that you make is too. So I think that's something you got to look at there, Shay. All right, let's get into the next one, man. The last voicemail for the day. This one's from Reggie.
Hey, this is Reginald calling back in after seeing another one of your videos. And the idea of trading Lonzo to Minnesota is not a bad idea, especially for Walker. But I think if I could, I would just try to get up off his contract. Not because $10 million is a lot, but the fact that I could probably use that money better in free agency. Or if I could, I'd probably try to move off him for their Minnesota's, like, I think it's the 31st pick, 31st or 32nd. And if I couldn't get it from them, I'd definitely try to get it from Charlotte. I believe have the 33rd. But if I had to take a player back and no draft capital was offered, I'd probably call on Terrence Shannon Jr. I know the odds of getting him are extremely slim, but if I'm moving off Coby White, I got to get an offensive punch. And TSJ is as good as any on that team. Well, as good as any available. As for Nikola Vucevic, I think the team he probably fit best on would be Golden State because with Jimmy, they're going to move at a slower pace. But I think they fall into the same trap the Bulls fell in when they put him together with DeMar DeRozan, where they probably go get in each other's way on the court when it comes to offense. So I think he'd probably be better suited on a team like LA. And I think the Lakers probably would give up Vanderbilt because he was hurt most of last year. And he's still got a couple of years left on his deal. But they'll probably want to add in another player to, ease off some of the money. Cause I think Vanderbilt's only making like $12 million. As for Zach Collins, I'll probably try to move off him as well. And I'll probably try to move off him to Golden State. I know some people might be thinking, well, why are you doing that? And the answer is because he's not one of the guys with a future for you. He's not going to be a part of your core. And I'd rather move and get something off him now when all those guys' value at his highest than wait till the trade deadline and just go for pocket change, really. Like I said earlier, I'd probably trade most of those guys for second-round picks, and I'd probably trade Kevin Huerter as well. Even though he definitely would fit the offense of what we try to do, he's just not worth $17 million. But what's your opinion? Thanks.
All right, Reggie, you had really good call quality on the one yesterday. Now let's get on this one. And Reggie, it feels like sometimes you rush to call in. Listen, if you want to respond to every video I make, great. But you don't have to rush it. Wait till you get into a better area for your call quality to come so you don't have to be up so close to the phone or something like that. Just don't rush it. You got time. You know when the mailbag days are. They're Saturday or Sunday. Those aren't going to change. So you got time. You don't have to rush to get a call in right after you finish watching the video if you're not necessarily in the best area to make a call, right? I want to hear from you, but again, this was one that was very close to the precipice of me not being able to play on the show, Reggie. That's why I point that out. But here's the thing, right? I get that you always want to look at other offers, and we do that as fans, but sometimes the offer is the offer. And you got to think about what, I get getting the 31st pick or whatever you said is, but is that player even going to turn out to be Nickeil Alexander-Walker? There's no guarantee on that. There's just not, right? And so keep in mind, I think people have to remember, too, this is still a Bulls team where they still want to try to win games now. This is not a tanking team. They're not all in development where it's just everybody's a development piece. They want some players and veterans that can fit around now so they can still play and win and try to win some basketball games. TSJ is not happening. I think they're well too invested in TSJ. That's part of the reason why they will be okay letting Nickeil Alexander walk. And listen, sometimes just because you can dream up a better deal, it doesn't make the deal that's on the table bad. Lonzo for Nickeil Alexander-Walker is not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal at all. For what he's been able to do, how he's been able to stay healthy, his versatility defensively, and his shooting prowess, it's not a bad deal. Don't avoid and don't pass up what could be a good deal, hoping for something great that may never come, right? Now, I'm not saying the Bulls, when they get on the phone, shouldn't say, hey, what about TSJ? No, okay, Nickeil Alexander, okay, let us think about it. But still negotiate, but you don't want to keep passing up, and that's something that's hurt AK and Eversley, is that it seems like they've waited for every home run move, and they haven't made the doubles. They haven't gotten the singles that can turn into putting yourself on position to score, right? It's those type of things that they've missed on. So I think you got to keep that in mind, too, when you're talking about deals. So that's my opinion. You guys can let me know how you feel down below. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.